Okay, well, hello everyone. Good morning and welcome to the third installment of the Bow Valley Sustainable Building Summit. My name is Jody Connuel and I'm a program coordinator at the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley, and I will be your host today. Before we get started, I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping notices. As webinar attendees, you will not be able to unmute your microphone without permission or turn on your video. However, we do welcome active participation at these events. So if you have any questions for Tyler as he's moving through his presentation, please do type them into the Q&A box available on the bottom of your screen. And Tyler will do his best to answer them as he goes through his presentation. There will also be about 10 minutes at the end for additional questions if we decide we'd like to have a further discussion after Tyler's presentation. If you experience any technical difficulties, please do either message me directly in the chat box, or you can email me at resource@biosphereinstitute.org. I will put that into the chat box, and I will do my best to help you. So today, the Bow Valley Sustainable Building Summit has been brought to you by the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley and the Bow Valley Builders and Developers Association. The Biosphere Institute is a local Canmore-based charity, and we aim to address what we believe are the two major challenges affecting the Bow Valley today: human-wildlife coexistence and climate change. We do this through targeted education, research, and community engagement. Our climate action efforts are managed under the SHIFT program, where we promote businesses and residents to reduce their energy emissions, waste production, and water use. The Bow Valley Builder and Developers Association is a membership-driven networking and advocacy group. BODA keeps its members up to date on issues impacting the industry and our local community. BODA luncheons, pre-COVID of course, have become the premier monthly business networking event here in the Bow Valley. We are very grateful to the generous support of Energy Efficiency Alberta and the town of Canmore, with whom's generous funding we spent 6 months in 2019 talking to local businesses and developers about what they wanted to learn about energy efficiency and how they really wanted to learn it. The result of this research was the Bow Valley Sustainable Building Summit, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the decision was made to cancel the original in-person event and take our webinars and learnings online. So today I would like to introduce our presenter, Tyler Hermanson, owner of 4 Elements Integrated Design. Tyler is an architectural technologist by training and longtime energy advisor with over 10 years experience in energy efficient homes and buildings. Tyler's role is primarily focused on quality assurance, training, and tackling the more complex energy and verification projects. From designing and consulting with builders on custom single-family homes as an energy advisor, all the way to commissioning complex multifamily projects as certified building commissioning professional. Tyler is passionate for better built, high-performance buildings and homes. So I will close my piece and hand over to Tyler.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here and excited to be chatting with all you today for a little bit. And this is definitely something I'm passionate about. Navigating green building and how we define green building is so important, and it underlies a lot of what we do at 4 Elements. So 10 years, 4 Elements has been providing design consultant, verification, testing work for residential projects. We really bookend the process from initial concept and planning to the final certification going on to the building at the end. We're the lead for homes provider here in Southern Alberta, so we've done a lot of lead projects from Calgary all the way out to the West Coast. We had a project up in Iqaluit. Long time volunteer with Built Green Standards Committee and a Built Green verifier. So we've seen this Alberta grassroots program really from its inception onward. And an EnerGuide service organization and an energy advisor for a long time. So seeing and doing the blower door testing on Alberta homes. And just recently, just in the last month, we're very excited to now be Energy Star and CHBA Net Zero Energy Service Organizations, programs that we've been working on as energy advisors for years, and got tied up in red tape and couldn't become a service organization. And just recently, we were allowed in. And so now we're a top level service organization as well. I'm really looking forward to driving these programs forward now in Alberta. So we're going to be talking about green buildings and how they compare to code. You know, and we really need to talk about code as a green building program too. It's the very first one. So we're going to kind of see this landscape of all these different programs. And we'll try to walk you through, understand how they're different, where they sit in the landscape, and to help builders and homeowners find the program that fits right for what they're building and what their goals are. And we need to understand why building code is not good enough for most projects, and the advantages you get out of building better than code. And I hope to have lots of time at the end for questions. I don't want to spend too much time talking at you with the PowerPoints. I hope to get into some questions and be really targeted today. So the building code, the Alberta Building Code, you know, this is the legal minimum of construction you're allowed. If you were to build any worse than code, the municipality would come in and knock your house down and tell you to try again. You know, you build any worse than code, you could go to jail, right? So we have developed a system to protect homeowners, you know, to make sure their homes meet a certain minimum standard. And it focuses on fire safety, electrical safety, structural safety. The building code, if you think about it, is really, really concerned that people don't die suddenly in their homes from some catastrophic failure. But the building code doesn't care if you die slowly in your home from indoor air quality contaminants or cancer or some of these other things that green building programs are aware of and are trying to drive forward in the industry. The other piece about building code is it's really designed for low-rise construction, which we call Part 9 in Alberta, on giving prescriptive approaches to simplify the construction process for the builders. So they don't have to engineer a house every time they build it. They can go to the code and say, well, this is going to work for this size and type of project. So they don't have to figure out how often you nail the sheathing onto the wall or what stud spacing you should use. The code provides all those basic calculations. They don't have to figure out what is the way of putting stucco on the house. They can read the code and say, this is the minimum way, acceptable way of applying stucco. And so it makes it a little bit easier for the industry, especially production builders who have to do a lot of houses to quickly build a lot of consistent homes. But it's very prescriptive. It doesn't look at individual circumstances. It doesn't look at a house as a system necessarily. When we get into the green buildings, it gets a lot more complicated. You know, we have probably, this is the 6 or 7 main green building programs we have in Canada, you know, that are labeling lots of homes and are fairly active or have a strong history here. There's probably another 6 more, 12 more even, that are more localized, not well adopted. And then if you went across to the States or across to Europe, you'd have 100 more. There's lots of different ways of developing a system to assess and certify construction. And that's what these building programs are. They all approach construction and recommending best practice a little bit differently. And they go down the road different amounts. You know, they have different legs on them. So if you look at code minimum, this is the minimum starting point. You have to do this green building program. And it really is a green building program because we have the energy efficiency requirements within code. There is an objective within the code language that says buildings shall not use too much energy. And so that's a similar mandate that we have in all the green building programs. So this is your starting point. You're leaving the station at code. You have to do code. The next piece you can get to is local bylaw. So this is where municipalities have looked at the conditions in their area and said, we need to increase some requirements beyond what's required by code. We need to be a little bit better. They often use incentives or penalties, and they often shadow green building programs or allow an option to get certified and show compliance that way. And those bylaw can range quite a bit, how far down the road they go. And then the green building programs go the rest of the way. They show us the pathway to a very sustainable future. The end of the line, if you want to think of it that way, is homes and buildings that use no energy, are renewably powered. They recycle their own water. They don't have any waste. They're carbon sequestering. We're talking about buildings that can actually be better for the environment, that they were built and placed on the ground, than the world would have been before. And that's a really lofty goal, and not very many projects reach that level yet. But that really is the end of the station. We'll talk about what program is really there now. And so projects, when you're looking at building a building, have to decide how far down this road we're going to go. What is the right spot for us? And as time goes by, the industry is moving forward, so that building code minimum takes steps forward to be more sustainable every 5 to 10 years. If you look at the code that we had in 1980s, it was much weaker. It didn't have important things we have about ventilation or radon or energy efficiency that are in the code now and are now code mandated. And what we've seen in the last 10 years is that things that were mandated by a green building program like LEED becoming code required over time, as code is kind of catching up to these leading programs. The one way we can kind of define and differentiate between green building certifications is the scope that they cover. How big of an umbrella do they put over a project? What do they look at? And if you're starting from code minimum, the first step that all the green building programs have in common is that energy efficiency focus. Saving energy, reducing costs, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And then some programs go a little bit further, and they start to talk about ventilation, air tightness, as the next first step, the next easiest, most important thing to do. And when we survey our clients on a design or a design consultation job, and we're asking them what their goals are and what their priorities are, again and again and again, energy efficiency, fresh air are top of those lists, right? They take up the biggest focus in our projects with lots and lots of clients. And then as the scope gets bigger, we start to look at the materials we use to build the house. The umbrella gets a little bit bigger, and we start to talk about the landscaping outside of the house. Only some programs go that far. Only 2 programs really look at what's happening outside of the building itself. And then you can go as far as looking at your location within the community. Is your home in a walkable neighborhood? Is there transportation options and bike lanes? And giving credit and encouraging things that go far beyond the boundaries of your property line even. So I'm going to quickly flash through the key programs I'm going to talk about today, and then we'll come back and we'll start to contrast and compare. So your fundamental, I think, green building program we have in Canada is the EnerGuide rating system. This is an energy labeling tool provided by Natural Resources Canada that allows us to model and test homes and provide an energy efficiency label to identify how much energy the house is going to use and how that compares to code minimum. So an EnerGuide label would say, your home is going to use 125 gigajoules of energy per year. And if you were to build to code minimum, you would have used 150. So you've saved energy, you've saved greenhouse gases, you get a nice report. And it does come with a blower door test to measure the air leakage on site, and an independent expert coming in to assess the house. Built Green is kind of the next step program we see started here in Calgary, is now certifying homes and buildings across Canada. Was started by the Canadian Home Builders Association, and has really been designed and supported by the building industry. You have to be a professional home builder to use this program, but it's really flexible, really comprehensive, and has really been driving a lot of green building in Canada. Energy Star is a new program, a fairly new program, again from Natural Resources Canada. So this is a federally provided program to recognize best performance homes that meet 20% energy savings or more. It has lots of prescriptive requirements about insulation, ventilation, and ductwork to make sure you get a high quality home with substantially improved energy efficiency, that 20% target. You're tying into a nice brand because we all recognize the Energy Star brand on appliances and lighting fixtures. And so we have this available for homes now. Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design is the very big kind of world-renowned program for certifying the world's most sustainable buildings. You know, we see it on our city hall buildings and our rec centers and hospitals, and you know, some very, very cool buildings have been LEED certified in the last 20 years. And so what LEED has done since 2008 is developed a program that scales down to the right size for single family and low-rise residential projects. You know, some things that make sense to put on a hospital or a Walmart don't really translate down to the single family construction. So we have our own LEED program just for residential buildings. A very robust, very stringent program. And then we have net zero energy, and net zero as a performance target is catching on, but there's also a net zero energy label that is possible to get. And this is offered by the Canadian Home Builder Association. It's for very energy efficient homes. There's net zero ready and net zero level that I'm going to talk about the difference between. Really, we're talking about very energy efficient homes that have solar panels. And that program was started only 2 years ago. So it's still really one of the newest programs on this landscape. But again, you have to be a professional home builder to use that program. And then we get a lot of people talking about passive houses or passive homes. So I'm talking here about Passive House Institute. This is the international Passive House label. There is also an American Passive House US system, but it's very different from the international. And I think the PHI program is more used in Canada. It's very popular in BC. This is a very stringent, energy-focused program, has one of the most detailed energy model requirements, one of the most stringent energy demand targets of any of the programs that we work on, is really trying to push homes to the very best energy efficiency possible, encouraging and requiring very good ventilation as well. Really focused on developing comfortable, very, very energy efficient homes. So the way we like to talk about the programs, I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on this slide, is putting them on this graph or this matrix. The way we think about it is if on the bottom axis, we've got energy efficiency alone. So in the bottom corner, we're starting at code, and homes get better and better, more and more energy efficient as you work to the end of the scale. And if you look at the vertical scale, you're looking at environmental sustainability. And as you go up that scale, you're getting more and more sustainable, lower greenhouse gases, better indoor air quality, all these sustainability elements that are beyond the scope of energy. So if you think about it, you know, you could build a very sustainable, you know, cob building with straw and mud, and there's goats on the roof, and it recycles its own water, but it has no insulation. So, you know, that would sit at this top level. It would be very environmentally sustainable, but wouldn't be very energy efficient. It would still use a lot of energy. And by the same token, you could have a home that is incredibly energy efficient. It has solar panels, it uses no energy from the grid, you know, has super thick walls, very, very energy efficient, but it has terrible interior finishes, and it's filled with formaldehyde and lead and VOCs and radon, and it's stuffy because it doesn't have enough ventilation, and you know, it's made out of concrete, so it's very carbon intensive, you know, but it focuses just on energy efficiency. And really what we find is that programs are balancing these two goals, right? They're falling somewhere in between. And kind of the general direction we have is this progression from where we at with code today, trying to get to that balanced, sustainable future. You know, the end of the line is really this end goal here. And the Living Building Challenge program is kind of the best representation we have right now of a program guide for how to get to that end game. So what we see when we look at this on a graph is where a program's energy efficiency entry point is and how they compare. And then also how sustainable a house has to be to fit within the boundaries of their program. We also see kind of the range of green building that the program covers. You know, what's the difference between the worst house and the best house that will still fit within the program? Because what we're seeing here is Built Green and LEED are multi-tiered programs. You can be bronze, silver, gold, platinum. You know, you can work up the scale. And so a LEED home, you could have a LEED certified home or a LEED platinum home. They'd both be LEED, but they'd be very different. And they'd be sitting at very different points kind of on this graph. These step programs, Built Green and LEED, are really, I think, good because they allow a project to land where they want within the program, you know, and they can work up the steps. You know, we've seen again and again and again, a builder will try Built Green, you know, or try LEED. They're coming from code minimum and they want to take their first steps to building a better, more sustainable project. And so the first year they build Built Green bronze. And they're like, oh, that wasn't so hard. That wasn't so bad. Clients really liked it. Well, let's try and do gold next time. You know, let's do platinum. And then we say, okay, well, we're doing Built Green platinum. Maybe we're ready for net zero. Maybe we're ready for LEED. You know, and they work up the system one step at a time, one project at a time. And so that's really helpful. You can stay within Built Green, you can stay within LEED, and you can work your way up. You can get better and better. It's also less risk of failing. And that can be really helpful to builders as they're starting out. You know, you target silver, but things don't quite go the way you thought they were going to go. You end up certifying, you know, just at certified. And that's okay. You still got a label, you still certified, you went through this rigorous program and you had a third party tell you how you did and assess what you built. You learn from that, and the next time you do silver, the next time you do gold, right? And you begin to work up. Whereas these other programs that have very small footprints, Energy Star and Net Zero and Passive House, these are pass-fail programs. If you miss, you know, there's no participation award, there's no pat on the back for trying. You just aren't Energy Star. You just aren't net zero. And so now you've invested this time, you've done this energy, investment into better building. You made a mistake because you're learning, but now you don't get any credit at all, right? You're just out of the program. And I think that's why, you know, Built Green, for example, has been so popular with builders, is they felt really safe entering this program, knowing that they'd have some flexibility. As long as they get all the prerequisites dialed in, you know, they might just fall down to bronze. That said, both LEED and Built Green have minimum standards. So there are some mistakes that you make that are catastrophic and they will still kick you out of the program. We can't have a Built Green house that has no energy savings at all. You know, that won't get you a label. In LEED, we can't have a LEED home that has a radon issue. You have to put radon protection in a LEED home. That's a prerequisite. And those prerequisites really help set that bottom threshold. And now we can say all these programs are, all LEED homes are this, this, and this, because those are minimums. But they can also be all of these flexible options and this whole range of things that build up the program. So Energy Star starts at that 20% efficiency range and has some environmental sustainability things focused on ventilation, proper insulation practices, those kind of things. Similar to CHBA Net Zero and Net Zero Ready, these programs are actually built on the same Energy Star foundation. So you'll see a lot of overlap between Energy Star and Net Zero. And Energy Star is really a good stepping point for getting up to Net Zero. We can see how LEED and Built Green overlap, but Built Green has a slightly higher energy efficiency buy-in. You have to be at least 10% more efficient than code to enter into LEED to meet the prerequisite. But both Built Green and LEED can really go right up to the most sustainable house you want to build because their credits are so flexible. You just keep adding more and more points to your checklist. Passive House, you know, is really right on top of Net Zero. Net Zero Ready too, right? You could have a passive house and really all it's missing is it doesn't have solar panels. Passive House plus certified projects, add the solar panels to the project. And so really Passive House and CHBA Net Zero are very, very close together, overlap quite a bit. I think, Passive House is using a lot of European standards, and recommends and has a European manufacturer members, and certifies European products, where CHBA is very stringent that you have to use Canadian approved products. And that creates conflict. We've had projects that have tried to certify both. So they were targeting Passive House Net Zero, and they wanted to dual label. But there are Passive House requirements that conflict with the Net Zero requirements. And so a couple of those projects ended up tripping and getting kicked out of the Net Zero program because of something that the Passive House program encouraged them to use. So you have to be really careful when you dual certify to all the minimum requirements of both programs. And there is the NASCAR approach, I call it, where a builder will try all of the green building programs, and they will try to put a whole bunch of stickers on the house and really and go for it all, which can be kind of fun because none of these, for the most part, conflict with each other. You could definitely build a house that was Net Zero Passive House Energy Star, as you build up the levels and add elements to your home. The Living Building Challenge, this project I put at the top, is the best of the best of the best, really. It's net zero energy, net zero water, very sustainable community focus, a very hard program to do. And so not very many projects have certified. In Alberta, we have one Living Building Challenge project underway right now. And hopefully they'll certify in this next year as they finish construction. You also have to wait a year until you can certify because you need to prove your performance over a year. There's a Living Building Challenge, Sustainable Commercial Building in Edmonton, that took some of the pedals of the program several years ago. So you see these Living Building Challenge projects out there. They're one of the most rare certifications we see because it is such a hard program. Compared to, say, Built Green, which does hundreds of homes a year. EnerGuide does thousands and thousands of homes per year. There's over 1 million EnerGuide labels in Canada now, new and existing homes. Whereas LEED and Net Zero, maybe certify 200 units in Alberta a year, multifamily and single family. CHB Net Zero program has, I think, 12, maybe 20 certified homes in Alberta right now. And then Passive House is another one of the rare birds. We only have a handful of certified Passive House projects and a few more that came close but didn't actually manage to certify, of which one of my projects is guilty of as well. So very, very close, but missed one of the technical requirements and didn't actually go ahead with certification. So there's a really big blast of what the landscape looks like. This graph is we often use in our documents. We've developed it over many years. This PowerPoint will be recorded and you can watch it again. On our website, we will also have our service guide, which talks about these programs again and has this graph included there if you want to reference it there. So I'm going to clear this.
Tyler, I'm just going to jump in here a moment. I'm just wondering if there's any education out there that people can access before making a purchase when they're looking at homes with regards to the Energy Star rating or Passive House.
For a home buyer, we don't have any courses focused on the homeowner that have ever been developed. It's a missing link, I think, in the landscape for sure. You'd want to ask your builder, do you have any of these certifications on the home? I would strongly encourage a home buyer to demand an EnerGuide label at the very minimum so that you know what's going into the house, because that report done by a third party will tell you what the energy efficiency is and what the walls and the window performance are, and how your home is using energy and how much it's going to use in a year. So you can estimate your heating bills and things like that. For builders who want to learn more about these programs, each program has some education around it. We're developing a new education program for net zero, which will be released this fall, and we'll have webinar courses starting. If you're new to green building, energy efficient performance building, that might be a good place to start because it is the newest content we have. LEED has US and Canadian content, but no specific courses for Alberta. And Built Green has a lot of webinars and things like that you can learn more about their program. A lot of them are free too. And there isn't really a course that would cover all of them, other than presentations like this. And this is really where you'd want to hire an energy advisor or a service organization to say, hey, I'm building a new house. Let's talk about these programs and help me navigate and find what's the best one to fit. We often sit down with potential clients for an hour, just talking about what their goals are, what these programs are, and helping them make sense of where they want to go before we even have a contract, before we even know, what they're going to do in the end. They might not even have a design done yet, but we're really helpful. We're really trying to educate the industry as we go and homeowners as we go. And an energy advisor is a great starting point. They're aware of all this. They know the energy efficiency stuff, and they can provide a lot of advice.
Tyler, I'm just going to jump in again. Sorry, I've got a couple of questions coming in, if that's okay.
Yeah, you bet.
Tiger wants to know, what resources do builders use to update themselves on energy efficient concept or technologies that are being developed or are available on the market?
We used to go to conferences to learn a lot of this stuff, and you'd sit into presentations like this and learn. The RCIC in Edmonton was a great conference for this kind of thing, from the Edmonton Home Builder Association. Again, the course, I would suggest the net zero courses and a building science course as a good starting point. And so the Professional Home Builder Institute has building envelope stuff. CHBA will teach you about energy efficient building if you already know the building science side of it. And just stay tuned. 4 Elements does a lot of education, and if we've done a lot of classroom and webinar content as demanded. So breakfast sessions with the home builders are a really popular way that we get the education out there on specific topics.
Great, thank you. And one more question. Is Alberta going to require an energy advisor on new builds anytime soon?
Wouldn't we like to know that answer? We thought it was coming. We thought we were there. As somebody who's been on this road for 15 years, it was pretty exciting. But I think, at the end of the day, no, I don't think it is going to be mandated as a legal minimum in Alberta for a long time, which is unfortunate. When you look at Ontario and you look at BC, energy advisors are now required to be on your team doing their analysis and testing the homes. And so those provinces get better homes than Albertans get as a code minimum. And that's too bad. Alberta does seem to be focused right now on building less expensive homes and tackling the affordability issue. And this is one cost that Alberta can kick down the road for homeowners that aren't, demanding of it. But man, oh man, I wouldn't buy a new house today without at least knowing the EnerGuide and the air tightness. Just as consumer protection, consumer education, you got to know what you're buying. And that's the best way, the easiest way. For $500, for $400, you can learn a lot about your home with an EnerGuide label from a third party. And that's so important.
We just have a quick follow-up question. Will the National Building Code update affect the EA role in Alberta?
It's a hot topic. I sit on the provincial technical committee with Build, and so we're talking a lot about the coming codes and things like that. And then there's this goal of harmonization where the federal government will release a building code and Alberta will automatically adopt it. We won't really have the same Alberta version of the code. I don't think the 936 energy efficiency section is going to go away in the national code. It is now very fundamental to where the national code wants to go. But it doesn't mandate a energy advisor. There is a pathway option that allows a builder to not use an energy advisor and follow a prescriptive approach too. But the majority of projects in Alberta, I think we're at 70% now, take the performance option and use an energy advisor or get an energy model. And I think that's important. Voluntarily, the industry is adopting the energy advisor role. And I think that's really good and will continue. The problem we have in Canada is that we are a big spread out country. And so if the national building code is going to mandate an energy advisor, that means we need to be able to get energy advisors in remote communities where they are doing building. So how do you get an energy advisor to Fort Saskatchewan, Hay River, these really far out places in Wood Buffalo, municipality? That's tough, right? And so we're still trying to figure out what that's going to look like. It's a challenge for Canadians for sure. All right, we'll keep rolling here, and there will be more time for questions at the end, so certainly keep the questions coming. It's a great discussion. A lot of what these programs are about is actually quality assurance, commissioning a home and testing it to make sure that it has met the owner's goal, that it is ready to be occupied, that is going to be healthy and efficient for the homeowner to move into. And when you look at this green column of code minimum, code doesn't actually give you very much quality assurance, right? A code inspector is probably not spending more than an hour over 3 or 4 inspections actually checking elements of the house. And there is zero testing. A building code minimum house has only been visually verified to mostly comply with code in a spot check kind of way. And a lot of homeowners don't realize that. An EnerGuide is your first step. Now you're getting air leakage testing, and you're getting quantified third-party energy savings, calculated for the home. That's a big step up. That's a lot more information that you get with a code minimum house. As you move into programs like Built Green and LEED, the amount of testing, the amount of verification increases, and you get to the point where in LEED, the home is very rigorously tested. Our green raters will spend 2 to 4 hours per home by the time you finish all of our inspections and the testing that we have to do. We test the air tightness, we test the ventilation system, we test the range hood fan, we test the water pressure and water leaks. We do the energy model, and we have to double check the room by room heat loss calculations. All of this to make sure that the home has actually been built the way it was supposed to be built, that the homeowner is getting the home that they asked for. And so that really pushes you towards a much more high quality home, right? There's just less problems. So why certify? And that's a topic we always get, asked all the time, right? Well, I could do all this stuff and then not certify. And that's really interesting. It's a tough question to navigate sometimes. What we see is kind of the 3 key things that make a certification a good idea. One is the savings. There is quantified energy savings for all of these projects measured through computer simulations and blower door testing that reduce your energy costs. And to the point where some of these homes are so efficient that we actually cut the gas line and save about $500, $700 a year just in connection fees, because we're so efficient, we don't need natural gas anymore. And by improving air tightness and making sure the home is airtight, we actually end up improving durability. One of my production builders continually comments on how much their warranty issues have improved since they started EnerGuiding every home and doing a blower door test on every home and starting to pay attention to the air tightness. And it's anecdotal, it's not a research-based thing, but we know that if you stop warm, moist air from leaking into the walls and attic, you're going to have a better, more durable building, less warranty issues. Certification also provides a degree of status. You can now have some bragging rights. You can say, I've got Energy Star lights and appliances. I've got a fancy heat recovery ventilator that provides fresh air throughout the house. I have 15% energy savings compared to code. You basically get to brag and say, my house is way better than your house. And that's fun sometimes, right? And for a builder, that's marketing. You can say, I stand out in this marketplace because I am so confident that I'm in my quality as a builder that I'm going to have a third party come in and test it and prove that it's high quality. Because the reality is, I've never met a builder in 15 years in this industry that says, actually, I build a shitty house. I build code minimum and that's all I do. No builder says that. Every builder says they have a great building and a great build. And some builders are now able to prove it through these testings and these certifications. So the last thing is confidence. From a homeowner perspective or a buyer's perspective, you now have this third party coming in and saying, this home is durable, it has been tested. A third party has come and do more than code required visual verification of the elements that need to go into the house, that the ventilation system has actually been tested to make sure that my bath fan actually does pull air out of the bathroom. And you'd be surprised how many don't. Somebody has come in and measured the air tightness of the house. So I know the builder has sealed all the holes, and I'm going to have a comfortable, quiet, higher performance home. And so that makes the homeowner feel a lot more confident. That makes the homeowner feel more confident in their builder, more likely to refer the builder on to another friend. It just makes everybody feel better about what they built. So, it's interesting. There's a role in this for local municipalities. The Alberta government sets the building code minimum, and we have that as a starting point. But there's a lot of power at the local level through governments to say, you know what, this is more important to us. We're going to add requirements beyond building code. So the town of Canmore is a good example, a leading example of how to use the bylaw to get better buildings built in your community. So the green building requirements have been incorporated into the land use bylaw, and new projects have to put up a performance security when they get their permit. And then they have to do an EnerGuide or a built green label, which comes with an EnerGuide for that home. They have to prove the energy savings through a third-party energy advisor. And if the target is met, the security is returned. If they're 10% better than code minimum, well done, here's your deposit back. If you miss that target and you're less than 10%, the penalty, they'll withhold the security. So you pay a penalty. And if you beat that performance and you build a high performance home, you actually get an incentive now. You get more cash back than you put in. And that's I think, a good system. It doesn't, it's a cost neutral, basically. The penalties pay for the incentives, and it's incorporated into the building code and the existing municipal process, right? There's not a new process you have to go through. It's built into how you get a permit process. City of Edmonton is doing a lot for homeowners, has some nice guides and homeowner awareness. They have a rebate now for solar installation, solar install, 40 cents a watt install, some things like that to help promote. And again, that's a carrot process, right? This is giving incentives. City of Medicine Hat actually has long had a gold star approach to improving their housing stock and really encouraging builders and homeowners to build better through their Hat Smart program, which has had different programs within it over the years. Right now, what they've done is $100 per gigajoule of energy saved for new homes up to $10,000, and that's huge. That's a big incentive. It is directly tied to energy savings, which we like. Obviously, it uses an EnerGuide label to do that, and some of my builders are super excited about it because they know that there are smart things they can do that cost less than $100 per gigajoule to install. Air tightness is a good example. Just by building a good airtight home, you can save lots of gigajoules of energy, and it generally costs you less than $100 per gigajoule. And then they start to push into more things like solar panels and added insulation. because the homeowners want that comfort, and the homeowner also gets that rebate then. And they have a great rebate for solar. And Medicine Hat's the sunniest place in Canada, so the solar is well positioned there with $1 per watt. Nationally, the CMHC Green Home mortgage insurance rebate has been really popular, and then there are private mortgage insurers like Genworth, and there's one other one I forget the name of right now, that will provide incentives on the insurance for certified homes, either energy efficient homes with an EnerGuide label, or LEED built green homes. So that can be worth a few $1,000 rebate for homeowners. So when you're starting a project, we really want clients to understand what their goals are. What are you trying to get out of this house? And not just about performance and energy costs, but health, comfort, quality, longevity, those types of things. From there, we can really start to plan what you need and plan how we're going to test to make sure you've got it, and then do the testing to verify that you've made it. And probably that aligns with the green building program, and you could certify with that. And when you get there and you get that certification in hand, there's your chance to celebrate. You've really, if you've done all the work and you've paid for the air tightness and the better appliances and the better lighting, and you have a comfortable, quiet house, to pay the last few $100s, even a LEED certification is only $500 to get the paper to submit it. That's nothing compared to the 10% or the 3% construction cost you invested in building a better house. 3% on your construction budget goes a long way to building an energy efficient, comfortable home. So you might as well kick in the last $500 and get it labeled. Now you have some bragging rights, and will help add value to that home long term someday when it resells. Because it won't just be a home on the market that has some unproven energy efficiency upgrades. It's a certified home that's a third party has said has these upgrades. So that provides more confidence in the builder and the buyer. But with all this stuff, first you have to know where you're starting. You have to know what your performance is and where your energy is going, and where you can best save it. And that's where an energy advisor comes in. We have a whole host of tools an energy advisor uses to assess the house and measure the airflows, doing the simulations and calculations. And that's really where you start. Where are you today as a builder or a homeowner, and where can you go? And an energy advisor is a great point to start. So we still have time left for questions. We did have some great conversation there as we went through the PowerPoints. I hope there's some more questions. Now, lots of information on our webpage. There's a white paper that we've written about EnerGuide, and a white paper, a service guide we've written about these certifications that you can get from our website. And you can also follow us on social media with 4E Green Homes, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. I think we all use the same handle everywhere. So thanks for coming in and chatting with us today, and hope you learned a little bit, and good luck on your green building projects going forward.
Okay, thanks, Tyler, for that awesome presentation. We do have a couple of questions coming in. So we'll start with Spencer. How do you approach having the green building conversation so that it's more constructive and educational for builders and homeowners?
Yeah, that's something we've been navigating for a long time, and we always approach it from an education standpoint. There's no preaching. And there's no judgment. Like if a homeowner says, look, I just want a code minimum cheap house, that's all I can do. I'm not going to make them feel bad for being in that position. And let's just make sure you get the best code minimum house you can get. What I like to do, I'll sit down with a builder and their client, say if they're at the early stages of planning, and we actually put it into a survey that we use, but we're just asking questions about, have you thought about how comfortable you need the house to be? Because building code doesn't give you a comfortable home. Have you thought about how quiet you want your home to be? Because building code is not going to give you a quiet home. Do you know how important fresh air is and proper ventilation is to you in your home? Because building code is not going to give you that. And we kind of rate it on scales, and we really get a feel for where their main focuses are. So we've had clients in Lethbridge who say, water is the most important thing to us. Like, we want to be incredibly water efficient. We want rainwater capture and all of this. Energy efficiency is great, but really, water is what we're passionate about. That's great. We have green building programs that will support that, and we can help you save a ton of water. And we have other clients that come in and say, we need to make this is our retirement home. We need to lower our operational costs as much as possible, because this is the home you're going to take me out of in a pine box. And so, great, let's look at operational costs. Let's look at how to make sure the house is durable, and let's see where that lands and what needs to happen to do that. And it's just that conversation.
Okay, so if you were to build a custom home for your family and money was not a concern, which green building rating system would you choose and why?
Well, that's easy. If money's not a concern, man, I'd love to have projects like that. If money's not a concern, I'd go Living Building Challenge. It is the best, most robust, and most stringent green building program, and it includes a net zero energy performance level, which is going to have incredible insulation values, much like a passive house. It's also going to have net zero water and community contact and public art and a whole bunch of other cool stuff in that program. So hands off, if money was not an option, Living Building Challenge is where it's at, absolutely.
Great. Do any of the code certification programs consider the social sustainability of the home, like the ethics of material procurement, i.e. mining materials used in solar panels?
That is a harder one for some of the programs to look at. I would say, again, Living Building Challenge is the best at taking that long-term look. But ethics would only be a minor component to some of their requirements. Locally manufacturing is encouraged for lots of the green building programs. Reduction of embodied carbon, embodied energy is fundamental to lots of the green building programs. Ethical supply is just touched on in Living Building Challenge. And again, more to community level than making sure you have public art, public private space, really enhancing the community around the house. To go into the ethics of supplying, rare metals and that kind of thing is very hard, because there's very few certifications to then be able to find those ethically sourced materials. The wood is probably the best, right? The LEED has a very stringent requirements around sustainable wood, and you must use FSC certified tropical wood. So you basically can't use unethically sourced old growth cut down tropical forests in your project. And we had to fail, a house that accidentally selected the wrong type of African Zabano veneer. $5 million home and $100,000 of millwork was spec'd incorrectly by accident. And we had to kick them out of the LEED program for that, because we couldn't verify that was sustainably kind of ethically harvested Zabano wood.
Wow, that's quite shocking when you spend all that money.
LEED can be tough that way, yeah.
Yeah. What are the signals from the Alberta government regarding energy efficiency?
Oh, that's a loaded question. How much trouble could I get myself into here?
Well, you've got about 1 minute to answer it, so not a lot, hopefully.
This government has a different focus. That's certainly clear. But I think they're also taking a bottom-up approach. I think they are empowering smaller organizations and local organizations to drive this innovation with industry support, rather than a top-down, we are going to just mandate these requirements across the board. And, so it's not as aggressive as maybe I would like to see, and I think we need, but I can't argue with a bottom-up approach. And we are seeing, some moves towards that. It's not top of mind right now and at the higher levels of Alberta, unfortunately, and Alberta is falling behind the rest of North America again. And that's something we're going to have to decide what we do about as Albertans.
Okay, great. And just one final very, very quick question. Do you provide planning assistance as well?
Absolutely. I think it's kind of fundamental to what we do. We work with projects who are still at the paper napkin stage, preliminary design stage, you know, all the way through the process in various roles. So yeah, absolutely, we can help navigate this for you as an energy advisor and an expert.
Great, thank you, Tyler. So unfortunately, we're running out of time. Thank you, everyone who's put forward some questions. Hopefully, we can find the answers to any questions that are left from Tyler and post them live with the webinar recording to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As part of the Sustainable Building Summit webinar series, the Biosphere Institute has been working with Dr. Jill Bittefeld, a postdoctoral fellow at U of A, so that we can analyze this webinar series. We want to understand how effective the learning has been as part of this webinar series, and she's helping us to do this. Because we want to help make these events better, we want more access to funding, and we also want to be able to continue this work into the future. So as you exit the webinar, a survey will pop up, and I really would encourage you to participate in the survey. If you do so and you fill out your email at the end, you'll be entered into a competition to win a portable Anchor solar charger. Every time you complete a survey, you get an entry. So if you've been to several of these already, you'll know the score. So thank you so much for helping us out. And I also just wanted to let you all know that next week we have Matt Grace and Bilal Maroof of Integral Design, who are going to be here to help you define the pathways to different green building certifications. And they would like to challenge the financial misconceptions and address any technical challenges you might encounter along the way. They will actually be giving the Calgary Zoo Panda Passage project as an example, which I believe is a Living Building Challenge building, which is super exciting. And don't forget to check out the online trade show showcase. And I look forward to seeing everyone next week. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.